My family praised my sister for holding us together, so I revealed the strings she pulled to tear us apart. I am a 34-year-old woman, and for as long as I can remember, my sister Lily has been treated like the anchor of our family. When we were kids, relatives described her as calm and steady, the one who always understood everyone. I grew used to staying on the edges while she placed herself right in the middle of conversations, even ones she was never part of. Whenever a disagreement started, she stepped in with soft reminders about what someone probably meant, adding little details no one remembered saying. People stopped checking with the actual person involved and started trusting her version instead. Over time, that shaped a quiet belief that she was the rational one, and I had no interest in complicated family discussions. I did not argue with the idea because it kept me out of drama, but I noticed how she positioned herself. She always hovered nearby, ready to reinterpret anything someone said. It became normal for aunts and cousins to wait for her to explain things, even simple comments. When my father went through a health scare a few years ago, I watched her move from person to person with updates that did not match what the doctors had told us. No one questioned it because she spoke with the confidence of someone who believed she was helping. My parents leaned on her heavily during that time, trusting her to handle calls and share information. They never noticed how her versions shifted depending on who she was talking to. Around then, I started seeing small changes in the family. People pulled away from one another after Lily stepped in to smooth things out. A cousin stopped visiting for a few months after Lily passed along something that supposedly came from another cousin. When I tried to piece together what caused the distance, the only connecting point was Lily's phrasing. She always arrived at the exact moment a situation could tilt one way or another, and guided it toward confusion without appearing to do so. She often presented herself as someone carrying far more emotional weight than the rest of us. She mentioned feeling overwhelmed, but in a way that made people stop and comfort her. It gave her a role she seemed to enjoy, someone who held the family together even when no one asked her to. She expected me to back her up whenever she retold a conversation, even if her version was nothing like what actually happened. When I refused, she framed it as me struggling to adapt or not understanding what people needed. As I got older, I noticed a pattern forming. Minor disagreements only grew into real misunderstandings after Lily stepped into the middle. Two cousins who had never had problems suddenly avoided each other for months because each believed the other had made certain remarks. Lily passed along. The more this happened, the more she appeared as the calm problem solver, reinforcing the image everyone already had of her. Everything changed the day I realized she had given my parents two different explanations about their retirement plans, both detailed, both confident, and neither of them anything I had actually said. For the first time, the pieces lined up in a way I could no longer ignore. I planned to stay quiet after noticing the issue with my parents' retirement plans, but a week later, my cousin Rachel reached out. She had heard through Lily that I was worried about her wedding expenses and thought she should scale back. Rachel and I had barely talked about her wedding, except for me congratulating her when she got engaged. Hearing Lily use the same calm, concerned tone she used with my parents made the whole thing stand out. Rachel explained how Lily presented it. She made it sound like she was protecting me from stress, stepping in to ease a burden I never had. Rachel then mentioned this was not the first time something like this happened. She remembered Lily relaying comments from other relatives that never matched what they later confirmed. The pattern sounded familiar. It matched exactly how Lily had handled the retirement situation, placing my name into conversations I never joined, shaping things before anyone checked with me. I asked Rachel to meet so I could note down what Lily had told her. We sat at her dining table while she went through the details. One line struck me. Lily told her I believed relatives were judging her wedding choices. That was almost identical to how Lily had framed me to my parents, as someone worried about reactions that had never crossed my mind. To make sure this was not just one strange episode, I reached out to another cousin, Ava. She shared that Lily once relayed a supposed concern of mine about a disagreement Ava had with her brother. Ava remembered being confused at the time because I had never been part of that situation. Lily still used my name as if I had privately shared thoughts with her. Hearing both stories made something very clear. Lily used me to justify her involvement in situations where she otherwise had no reason to insert herself. I started going back through recent events to create a timeline. I marked down dates when misunderstandings began, who was involved, and when Lily joined the conversation. Every time tension appeared, Lily had added a comment on my behalf or implied I needed help navigating something. The pattern held no matter who the relatives were. It was always the same. She described herself as easing emotional strain, stepping in to help someone who had never asked for help. At the next family gathering, I watched Lily more closely. She stood near small groups of relatives, listening in and offering updates between conversations. When she repeated something, she adjusted the tone. A simple comment became a misunderstanding. A harmless observation became something that needed smoothing out. Moments later, she guided people through the very confusion she had created. She always looked composed while doing it, as if her presence kept everyone steady. By the time the night ended, several new examples fit neatly into the timeline I had been building. Everything pointed to the same structure. Lily shaped narratives before people realized anything had shifted. She influenced how others viewed my involvement, even in situations I barely knew about. Watching it unfold in real time made one thing certain. If I wanted to address this without creating more chaos, I needed clear records and a plan, not another conversation that she could twist. A few days after meeting with Rachel, I heard from my cousin Ava again. She had been thinking about the story she shared earlier and wanted to check something with me. She explained that Lily once mentioned I was uneasy about how relatives handled disagreements, something Ava had never heard from me before. That matched the pattern in my notes, so I added the new details to the timeline. Not long after that, Rachel contacted me again. She had spoken with another cousin, and Lily had brought my name into their conversation too, this time about wedding seating. Lily told her I worried certain relatives would feel excluded. I had not spoken to anyone about seating at all. Hearing the phrasing reminded me of the retirement situation, the wedding expenses, and the earlier disagreement Lily twisted between Ava and her brother. Every instance used the same structure. I decided to meet Rachel again. She went through the exact wording Lily used and pointed out how Lily positioned herself as easing tension that never existed. As she spoke, the similarities stood out clearly. Lily framed me as someone who quietly stressed about small issues, giving her a reason to insert herself into situations. To get a clearer picture, I reached out to another cousin, Megan, who had once mentioned being confused by a comment Lily passed along. Megan explained that Lily had told her I believed relatives were judging the way she handled a family event. Megan never questioned it because Lily sounded confident, and I had not been around much that month. This lined up perfectly with the other examples. I added this to the timeline and compared dates. Each tension spike followed the same pattern. Lily brought my name into a topic, shared a concern I never expressed, then positioned herself as helping both sides understand one another. When I lined the events side by side, her method was identical regardless of the people involved. At a family dinner soon after, I paid close attention to how Lily moved around the room. She stood near the kitchen doorway where conversations crossed. When two relatives finished talking, she walked to another pair and repeated a piece of what she heard, shifting the tone enough to create a slight misunderstanding. Moments later, she stepped back into the middle of it, guiding the group through the new problem. I watched her repeat this pattern with 3 different sets of relatives. Each time, her involvement created confusion where none existed before. Every time she explained something, she mentioned someone feeling overwhelmed or misunderstood, always using the same soft, steady voice that made people trust her. After dinner, an aunt walked up to me and asked if I really felt out of the loop on a recent family plan. I had never mentioned anything about being out of the loop, so I asked who told her that. She pointed in Lily's direction. Another note went into the timeline. By the end of that week, I had enough documented moments to see everything clearly. Lily was not just repeating things inaccurately, she was shaping interactions across the family using the same structure every time. The pattern was no longer subtle once it was written out. It was deliberate, organized, and repeated across years. I invited my parents over for dinner at my place the following weekend. I kept everything normal until we finished eating, then brought out a stack of printed notes I had organized by date. Each page listed a conversation, who was involved, and what Lily had added that changed the direction of the discussion. My parents watched as I set everything on the table in order. I started with the retirement situation because both of them remembered that one clearly. I laid their separate versions side by side. Each had a few small details Lily had changed, just enough to make them think the other held a different opinion. Seeing the two accounts together made the source obvious. My father read the summaries slowly, stopping at the parts where relatives had independently confirmed the exact wording Lily used when she passed along information. Next, I added the set of notes about Rachel's wedding. The pattern matched the retirement issue even though the group of people was completely different. In both cases, Lily used my name to anchor her involvement. She presented my concerns in a way that created tension first, then stepped forward to ease it. My mother paused at a page where a cousin recalled Lily describing me as overwhelmed. She remembered hearing that same phrase from Lily years ago. I pointed out that this term showed up across relatives who never talked to each other about me. It was part of a consistent description Lily used whenever she wanted to explain my absence or my supposed view on something. My father leaned back and said he had never heard anything like that from me directly. He realized every mention of those traits came from Lily alone. I moved on to the more recent interactions, Ava's disagreement, the wedding seating misunderstanding, and the family dinner confusion. Each one used a slightly different angle, but all of them framed me as someone who needed Lily to interpret things or protect me from imagined reactions. I kept my explanations to the exact statements relatives had confirmed. No guesses, no interpretations, just what people had actually heard from her. My mother asked whether Lily had done this to anyone else in the family. I showed 2 examples involving cousins where Lily shifted their tone when repeating their comments to another relative. Those situations were smaller and less consistent, but they matched the same structure. By the time we reached the end of the stack, my parents could see the timeline clearly. The patterns did not rely on mood or guessing. They formed a chain of events where Lily held the center by creating misunderstandings and guiding people through the confusion she introduced. My parents admitted they had accepted her calm presentations as truth because she always sounded certain. They had never compared stories directly. Before leaving that night, they told me they wanted to speak with Lily together. They wanted to ask her about these events in a structured way, without relying on anyone else's explanations. They said it was time to hear conversations directly, instead of through a filter. My parents did not wait long to arrange the meeting with Lily. They invited her over the next evening and asked me to be there as well. When she arrived, everything looked normal at first. My parents kept their tone steady, and Lily settled in as if she expected another routine family catch-up. After everyone sat down, my father brought out the stack of printed notes I had shown them the night before. Lily looked at the pages but said nothing. My father explained that he and my mother had reviewed these summaries and wanted to go through them together, step by step, to understand how certain misunderstandings had started in the family. He began with the retirement situation. He placed both versions on the table, the one Lily had given to him and the one she gave to my mother. The differences were small but clear. Lily leaned forward, studying the pages as my father explained that these mismatched details had caused an argument neither of them knew how to trace at the time. My mother then moved to the examples involving cousins. She highlighted how relatives had confirmed the exact wording Lily used, wording that mirrored the descriptions she had used about me for years. Lily stayed quiet as she read through them. She did not deny the events, but she did not offer explanations either. My father pointed out the similarities across the events. Lily brought up my name first, added a concern that I had not mentioned, and then guided the affected relatives through the tension that followed. He explained that this pattern appeared in unrelated situations across different groups of the family. My mother added that the term overwhelmed appeared so often that it could not have been an accident. It surfaced across cousins who rarely interacted, yet all traced it back to Lily. She compared that with how Lily had once described herself as carrying the weight of everyone's emotions, and asked if that was why she framed situations this way. When the notes shifted to more recent interactions, Lily's reactions changed. She looked over pages where relatives confirmed they had not spoken to me before hearing something involving my name. She opened and closed her hands a few times, but still gave no explanations. My father emphasized that misunderstandings only escalated after Lily entered the conversations. My mother asked whether Lily had noticed how often tension appeared after she relayed information between relatives. She mentioned the two smaller examples between cousins, instances where Lily adjusted tone and phrasing that created a disagreement from an innocent remark. Lily read through those pages slowly, recognizing the similarities even if she did not comment on them. After reviewing everything, my father placed the final page on the table, showing the timeline as a whole. He explained they wanted clarity, not excuses. They wanted direct communication going forward, and needed Lily to step back from interpreting or relaying messages for other people. For the first time that night, Lily looked directly at my parents. She did not argue. She simply nodded once, realizing the discussion was not based on assumptions or impressions. It was based on documented events from across the family. Before leaving, my parents told me they planned to adjust how communication worked from now on. They wanted everything said directly, with no middle steps and no interpretations. They said the family needed a clean way forward, and this was where it had to begin. My parents kept their word after the meeting. They contacted relatives directly over the next few days to clarify past conversations without involving Lily at all. Each relative responded with clear details, and none of the responses matched the versions Lily had shared earlier. With every call, the pattern my parents saw became stronger, and they started adjusting how they handled updates in the family. A week later, my parents invited me to their home again. They had reorganized how they communicated with the extended family. Instead of letting information scatter through multiple people, they wanted everything handled by whoever was directly involved. They explained these changes to me first, then planned a family dinner where they would present the new system. They wanted Lily present, but they also wanted the structure laid out before she arrived, so that misunderstandings could not grow in the usual way. On the evening of the dinner, relatives arrived in small groups. My parents kept the atmosphere calm and casual, but several cousins had already noticed recent differences. They mentioned how clear things felt when people spoke directly instead of relying on interpretations. That alone confirmed my parents were moving in the right direction. When Lily walked in, she greeted everyone the same as always, but the room did not shift toward her the way it usually did. People were already talking among themselves, comparing updates they had exchanged personally. For the first time in a long while, Lily was not the center of the communication flow. After the meal, my father addressed the group. He explained that moving forward, family updates would come directly from the person involved. No retelling, no summaries, no one speaking on behalf of someone else. He did not single Lily out. He laid out a general rule that applied to everyone. My mother followed by giving examples of past confusion that came from mixed messages. She did not use names, but enough people recognized the incidents. As my parents spoke, relatives nodded. Some even commented that they had wondered why certain disagreements became so complicated in the past when they seemed simple at the start. My parents continued outlining the plan: direct calls, shared messages only when needed, and no third-party explanations. Lily listened quietly. She did not interrupt or argue. Her usual role as the one guiding the conversation did not appear, and she did not try to reclaim it. Several cousins noticed this shift, and a few glanced at me, understanding more than I had said out loud. After the dinner ended, people stayed longer than usual. Relatives compared old misunderstandings and realized they had come from the same source. They were surprised at how many small details had changed once they spoke to one another directly. One aunt mentioned that she had always sensed a disconnect when information went through certain channels, but never had proof until now. As the evening wrapped up, my parents thanked everyone for being open to the new structure. They emphasized that this system was meant to keep the family close rather than divided by misunderstandings. Relatives agreed and left on positive terms, already planning to reach out to one another more often. When the house finally quieted, my parents looked relieved. The shift they had wanted, clear, direct communication, had begun smoothly. With the new structure settling in, the family was finally operating without the confusion that had surrounded so many past situations. In the days after the family dinner, my parents kept their focus on the new communication rules. They stayed quieter during group conversations, stepping back to observe how things unfolded without Lily guiding every detail. My father made several phone calls to confirm pieces of past events, wanting to understand how far the misunderstandings reached. Each call lined up with what I had already documented. Every disagreement Lily had stepped into began with a remark she introduced, not something anyone else actually said. My mother reached out to my aunt next. My aunt admitted she had always felt uneasy when receiving updates through Lily because the tone never matched what people intended. She avoided questioning it at the time because Lily presented everything in the same calm, confident way. Hearing this gave my parents more confirmation about how long these patterns had shaped the family. A few days later, my parents invited me over again. This time they wanted to talk about permanent changes to how the family communicated. They did not want Lily in the middle anymore. My father laid out a simple plan: direct conversations only, no third-party summaries, and no decisions made based on interpretations. My mother added that all updates, medical, financial, or personal, would come only from the person directly involved. I agreed, and we went through examples of how this structure would stop the issues that had been happening for years. Instead of trying to fix Lily's behavior, my parents wanted to remove the space that allowed manipulation to grow. When it came time to speak to Lily, they approached her with a calm tone. They explained that they needed distance from her handling of family information. They told her clearly that they would no longer rely on her to deliver messages or interpret conversations. Lily reacted with disbelief at first. She insisted she had only tried to help the family. But my parents stayed steady. They repeated that the new system was about clarity, not blame. The next time the extended family gathered, the shift was noticeable. For the first time, Lily had no information to deliver and no conversations to guide. Without the role she had shaped over the years, she moved more quietly through the room. Relatives interacted directly with one another, checking details themselves instead of turning to her for explanations. Within a week, misunderstandings dropped almost completely. Cousins who had once clashed over small remarks now double-checked things with each other before assuming anything. Aunts who once relied on Lily for updates began sending group messages themselves. Even small events, like planning a shared gift or organizing a dinner, ran smoother than they had in years. As the weeks passed, relatives reached out to me individually. They mentioned how peaceful things felt, how simple it was to know exactly who said what. They told me how strange it was, realizing how often tension grew only when information passed through Lily. Months after the system settled in, we had another family dinner. The table was calm, conversations were easy, and nothing felt forced or tense. Near the end of the meal, my father lifted his glass. He thanked the family for adjusting to the new system and said it had brought the stability everyone once believed came from Lily. Now, he said, the stability came from clarity, honesty, and direct communication, something the whole family had built together.